Okay, I got my carriage installed today. Big step. This is showing off pretty much the little issue I had and kind of the difference between a Core XY printer and the more traditional, sometimes called bed slinger printer. So the Prusa here, the bed moves forward and back. That is called your Y direction. The hot end moves left and right. That's your X direction. And then the hot end itself moves up and down. That's your Z direction. With the Core XY, your hot end still travels X direction, but instead of this whole bar going up and down, this entire carriage goes up and down. So all four corners have belts that I haven't finished routing that connect to motor down here where the feet go. See a toothed gear right there. That's where one of these belts goes to a motor in each corner. So this entire carriage goes up and down for the Z height, whereas here it's just this one piece that goes up and down for your Z height. But similarly, this has your X direction on it, and this one has your X direction. The difference is the Y. The bed goes back and forth over here for your Y direction, whereas this slides forward and back, and that's your Y. It uses A and B motors, so it's not really called Y, it's A-B direction. So this whole gantry handles the movement of X and Y in this manner, instead of moving the entire heated print bed forward and back. So I haven't installed the print bed yet because working on this is easier without the heavy, fairly thick aluminum print bed. So the print bed will be here and will stay in place. So you don't need to make room behind the printer like you do this one, which you see right now. That's hitting the wall. So my Prusa obviously cannot fit with this little tool caddy thing and some tools that I've got here. It's going to have to come way further forward, so that's the wire back there for the heated bed, and it looks like even the bed might touch the wall when it's all the way back. So these use a little bit more depth, whereas this is all contained now in a cube, because you can see this is flush, this is flush. So you put doors on it really easily. This kit comes with a full enclosure. So the sides, the front has two opening doors, and there's a panel on the top. So that's the main difference, and the main issue that I just got through with that I wanted to talk about is that because everything is controlled in the movements here, it's really important that these are straight, these are lined up, and that's where I was running into a bit of an issue, because you can see here there's the one piece of aluminum extrusion here, there's one on each side, and there's one on the back. The left and right are the same size. The one in the back is a unique size, and the one up here is a unique size. the LDO manual tells you to leave these two screws and these two screws loose, so that when you get to this stage and you start making sure everything's lined up, that you can adjust these pieces of plastic in or out if you need to make everything line up. The most important thing is this being parallel with this. Well, the instructions also say this back extrusion, when you bolt it, 2 bolts on the top and 2 bolts on the bottom on both sides, put the extrusion all the way in till it touches the inside of this piece of plastic. And you can see I have a huge gap there. So that confused me for a bit. I thought something was wrong because the manual's telling me leave these loose so you can adjust this to make things parallel. And I'm looking back here going, there's no way I need to adjust this, but it's telling me this bar is supposed to be flush in the plastics. There wouldn't be that gap that you can see back there. So got on the good old YouTube and watched some videos and discovered that no, these are also made to adjust. So that's why I've got it to the point where it can actually get this far. It's still not right. It was binding up about here before I loosened these and added, I'm going to say, about 2.5 to 3 millimeters of space on each side for this back bar. So my personal opinion, the LDO kit, this back bar for this is the 350 millimeter Voron 2.4. This back bar should be longer by at least 5 millimeters, because that seems to me too much of a gap, and I still have to go even more. So these bolts go into T-nuts back there, and pretty soon the T-nut's going to start poking out of the extrusion a little bit, because I've got, this bolt is getting really, really close to the edge of that metal extrusion. And to see how far I have to go, pardon the camera work, got all kinds of stuff in the way here. If you can see this is the gantry, and this is lined up pretty even. But if I can get back there with the camera. Okay, hopefully you can see here, this piece is still too far in. It needs to come out to be level with this block. So I've still got maybe a couple millimeters on each side. This one here, there's less of a gap, but it's still over a millimeter on this side. So I would say I might have another 3 millimeters when the manual is telling you, when you assemble it, to put that extrusion all the way up against the plastic part. And again, look at this angle. You can really see that bolt goes through the plastic into a T-nut. That T-nut is obviously wider than the head of the bolt because the bolt has to go into it, and it basically pinches the plastic between the extrusion and the top of the nut, or bolt, sorry. But you can see that huge gap. So to me, that back bar is way too short in the kit. I'm not really happy with that. I'm hoping it's not going to affect the stability. And looking at the videos, people adjust them so it doesn't have to be flush up against the plastic like the manual says, but it'd be nice if the manual basically said, leave those screws loose for adjustment, and didn't tell you to leave these loose for adjustment. I did check all 4 of the extrusions in the gantry. They all match the LDO kit bill of materials, What I did not do is look at the official Voron bill of materials for the 350mm kit to see if LDO is using a shorter back piece than the Voron specs or not. But yeah, I think that's too short myself. That gap is there, and it still needs to be bigger for me to get everything lined up. Looking at these right here, this is the gantry, and this plastic block is bolted to the carriage here on this linear rail for the Z height. So all four corners, this is the carriage that rides on the linear rail. This is bolted to the top of it, and then I need to put a bolt through the bottom of it that goes through this block and into this block in the carriage, and that's how this Z carriage is mounted to the gantry. So that's why, another reason why you want these to be squares, because I've got a bolt that's got to go up through the bottom and screw into that upper piece. And without getting my Allen wrench out, I won't know for sure if that's even gonna hit it, but you want them lined up. And I can line that up now by holding it, so it's not, now the bolts of course gonna stick in. So yeah, I'm gonna have to again loosen the bolts on one side, if not the other. I might look to see, because I think I've got a slightly larger gap on the left side than the right side, and it's close enough. I think I might just loosen the left side bolts and slide that piece over until all the blocks are lined up and level, and then tighten them back down. So yeah, that was my issue, going to the manual and seeing where it told you to leave these loose for adjustment, and it told you to put the extrusion butted up against the plastic on the back pieces, and at least with this kit it didn't work that way, and I was thinking maybe my plastics are the wrong dimensions, or I was using the wrong rail in the wrong spot, or that the rails were a different measurement than the documentation says they should be. But no, it was just the fact that that back rail is so short that it's the one that absolutely needs the bolts loose so you can adjust it outwards, whereas this one is long enough where there's no way you would need to move these outward. At least I don't think so. Like I said, these blocks on the outer edges are pretty good. I don't think I'm going to need to adjust these to make this length wider, but definitely not as much as I need to do it in the back, if at all. So again, showing progress and a little bit of an issue that I had, and now I've got cables down on the floor that I need to route. Oh, one other thing I'll say while I'm here. This is in the LDO manual, and I saw a video on it as well. The Voron manual has you take big long zip ties and have 4 of them, 2 on each side. So when you put this gantry in, you put it in from the back and you put it through the zip ties, so it's basically hanging by zip ties. Whereas the LDO manual says mount this plastic block, which is several pages further down in the Voron manual. LDO says mount these blocks to your X carriage and then use these little black rubber stoppers that come with the linear rails that they give you. Right, this comes with these black rubber stoppers put in both ends because you don't want this carriage to fall off the end. And before you get it mounted where there's something for it to bump into, it could just slide right off the end, and then the ball bearings might just fly all over the floor, and then you're in a world of hurt. So they come with these little rubber stoppers. So the LDO manual says, yeah, just put your mounting block on this, put a rubber stopper in the same spot on all four corners, and then when you put your gantry in, it'll be resting on top of this block, and the rubber stoppers on all four corners will keep it from falling down. You don't have to use zip ties. So that seems to be working good, but of course the more I'm sitting here messing with it and touching it and moving it around, the more stress I'm putting on it. So I should probably stop doing that. All right, that's it for my current update.